So you've all sort of, I'm imagining, seen the case study flyer that put together on lifestyle. I suppose we tend to see about 50% better resource utilisation. Part of that usually comes back from just being able to start guys on the road, but usually it's just actually optimising the way they work. So we see a lot of service businesses that literally have guys crossing over the city because they really only call allocate on availability. They don't actually think about going, oh look, so-and-so can be there in 3 hours and he's got a 10-minute drive time. But because Bob's free right this second, they send Bob and get him to drive across town. Probably that kind of management is at its worst in Australia's smaller cities. So Perth, Adelaide, Brisbane and the Gold Coast to a lesser extent. You very rarely see that in Sydney and Melbourne, just purely, particularly Sydney, because they just usually have very localised areas of operation. You only see big businesses saying, I'll do all of Sydney. You just get a guy that does just the North Shore or just the western suburbs or whatever it happens to be. So to fulfilment, there's no accountants here, so I'm going to sledge an accountant. Accountants are entertaining beasts. They love to look at the P&L and they love to look at aged receivables. Love aged receivables. What I really love about accountants is they never actually look at how long it takes to get the bloody thing into the receivables ledger. Now, one particular favourite accountant of mine, publicly listed fork truck company, nice guys. It took 60 days on average to get an invoice actually into the accounts receivable environment. So they're processing, they're actually issuing 60 days of credit before the 30 days standard business terms. There's I suppose we'll call them an exhaust business in Victoria that has a similar issue in their service business as far as how quickly they process to receivables. And consequently, when people start saying, oh, but your stock holdings can't be accurate, well, our stock holding is going to be a hell of a lot more accurate than what a paper-based system can deliver, because people obviously have to net off orders sitting in trays that are all uncommitted stock. So yes, my accounting system can tell you stock on hand, but it is seldom going to be even close to accurate. Hence the reason why a lot of businesses now stock take locally. Ultimately, what we're trying to achieve is less stock holdings in a van, so because you can actually see the parts moving more accurately, or alternatively, allowing people to better leverage their suppliers. So rather than actually holding the stock themselves, actually utilise logistics more effectively. So, for argument's sake, use Plumtech or Galvin's or TradeLink as the warehouse. And actually slick up your logistics there, plan your jobs better, profile them better. We're even seeing plumbers now change over to having like what I call discovery plumbers that go in and go, oh yeah, your sewer's blocked. Fantastic. We can't fix that now, but we can get someone here for you. So when the job actually goes back to the call centre, it's, if you like, or needs to be allocated out to the actual plumber, they know everything that's required. So they've done a discovery process. So they have a 20-minute, this is my investigation call. Far more effective than the stop, wait 2 hours for parts, I've tied up my resource for 3.5 hours. Far more effective to send someone there for a short, sharp call, figure out the issue, book and allocate the job later when I can actually come back with parts. Business knowledge, you'd be amazed at what you can actually figure out, like benchmarking and all that sort of stuff. Another interesting story. This might have to be edited out of video. We had a guy work for us in Melbourne who was, he actually wasn't a bad human being, but we had this real sense that he was taking the piss. And so I had an interesting lesson in that the IR laws really did very little. So we sacked him after presenting him with various examples of how his trend ratios were sometimes as high as 35 and 40%, and that just wasn't acceptable. And we sort of limped along with him for a few months, and that was all entertaining. And then he sent us a letter from a lawyer. I'm suing you bastards. So anyway, luckily we were able to produce some pretty useful stats and then send that back to his lawyer, and he actually dropped the case where we effectively said, well, your client's actually being paid We pay service outcome commission, so if the guys actually work below their KPI, they get a little bit of a kicker. And we paid this guy a commission on good faith that he was working effectively, and he was claiming that we owed him more money and so on and so forth. So we sent back this letter that basically just said, well, here's the facts. We paid this guy this much under the old system on good faith that his jobs were accurate. In actuality, his fail rate was 50%, so if we credit that back, we're happy to receive a refund on all the other work and then pay him out the other thing. And funnily enough, he went away. But that wasn't hard for us to pull. It was pretty easy for us to expose the statistics. And from a reporting point of view, the software is built on SQL Server as if you like, the back-end engine, and all the reporting is written in SQL reporting services. So if you've got any expertise in Crystal, then SQL report services is a bit better.
Yeah, so I've got a question then with the report creation.
Yep.
So let's say deliver the product to a third party and they want some of these customised reports. If they don't have some of the in-house skills, what sort of avenues do they have in order to get those reports?
Yeah, from that point of view, certainly as part of the delivery process we can create them. So possibly could supply them. There's plenty of external SQL reporting guys around that you can just chop shop it. Here's a data source. This is what I want it to look like. Can you create it for me? But we've never had that happen. Typically, we'd actually be picking up that. So as part of the implementation, those kinds of reports would get created.
Okay, so it's Microsoft SQL Server.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll come back to this, but so I'll just touch on this quickly. As I said before, we see our software as a workflow platform, and consequently, if you want to affect electronic workflow, you've got to really choose the right device for the business need. So, from that point of view, the software can obviously go desktop, notebook, tablet, phones. It's amazing how effective text messaging is. We tend to be using that for customer interactions. So, as an example, I want to set an event that says, once my job's finished and completed, text my customer and say, hey, it's all done. We've had a lot of automotive customers pick that up. So they pick that up and say, you drop your car in at 6 in the morning or 8 in the morning, by lunchtime it's finished. All the guy in the workshop's doing is closing the job off. It's sending out a text saying, Mrs. Jones, job's all done, come pick your car up. We're also finding that people love text messages for receipts, believe it or not. So I've actually done an order, paid for it, and they're actually pretty comfy with getting a receipt saying, thanks for your order, cheers very much. So, yeah, the mobile phone can be quite an effective communication tool for the customer, if you like. I'm not seeing very much of it for, I'll call it general workforce management, purely because it's a very expensive method of sending data. It was super expensive. You couldn't get more expensive if you were trying to, you might as well just get gold bars and melt them down and distribute them. 160 carat, just 20 cents.
So you're using GPRS and that sort of stuff, packet-based solutions?
Everything's an IP feed.
Yeah, so.
I guess the final thing, obviously, is a good old PDA, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. The only thing I did want to say is we license to an actual Active Directory account. So from that perspective, we have a lot of customers that run multiple devices. So like for me, I have a laptop and a PDA. But from a licensing perspective, that's one user. And you'd be amazed at the number of organisations that actually want to work like that. So they want the PDA for rapid access and the notebook for more advanced functions.